Kevin only stayed behind at the office party because someone had to. When his boss stumbled out crying, too drunk to stand, Kevin didn't see race or titles. He saw a person who needed help getting home safe. But when she showed up the next morning, stone sober with a trembling finger pointed at him, Kevin's act of kindness nearly cost him everything. This is Hopeful Horizon. The fluorescent lights of Morrison and Associates had been dimmed for the evening, replaced by string lights and a portable sound system that now played soft jazz as the annual company party wound down. Empty wine glasses and crumpled napkins littered the conference tables that had been pushed against the walls to create a makeshift dance floor. Kevin Porter, a senior financial analyst with 7 years at the firm, methodically stacked chairs, while most of his colleagues had already headed home to their families. At 34, Kevin had learned that staying a little later, helping a little more, was sometimes the difference between being seen as dependable versus being overlooked entirely. He paused when he noticed Linda Matthews, the department manager, sitting alone in the corner near the hallway that led to the executive offices. Her usually perfect blonde hair was disheveled, and her shoulders shook with quiet sobs. Kevin approached carefully. Linda was known for her sharp tongue and demanding standards, but right now she looked utterly broken. "Hey, you good? Want me to call someone?" Kevin asked gently, keeping his voice low enough that the few remaining partygoers wouldn't hear. Linda looked up with red-rimmed eyes, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Don't tell anyone," she slurred, the smell of wine heavy on her breath. "Just don't leave me here alone." Kevin glanced around the nearly empty office. The cleaning crew would be here soon, and Linda was clearly in no condition to drive herself home. He thought of his 8-year-old daughter Maya, probably already asleep at his neighbor Mrs. Garcia's apartment, and made a decision that would change everything. Kevin helped Linda to her feet, supporting her weight as she swayed. His blue Honda Civic sat in the parking garage, and he was grateful for the dash cam he'd installed after a minor fender bender 6 months ago. As he helped Linda into the passenger seat, he quietly activated the camera and pulled out his phone to record a voice memo. "It's 11:47 p.m., Friday, March 15th. I'm driving Linda Matthews home from the company party. She's intoxicated and unable to drive safely." Kevin spoke into his phone, then slipped it into his shirt pocket, still recording. The drive to Linda's upscale neighborhood took 20 minutes. Linda rambled about her recent divorce, how lonely she felt, how hard it was to be a woman in leadership. Kevin kept his responses professional and supportive, his hands firmly on the steering wheel. "You're such a good listener, Kevin," Linda said, her words slurring together. "You know, I've always noticed you, always so strong." Kevin's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. "Let's just get you home safe, Linda. You'll feel better tomorrow." When they reached her Tudor-style house, Kevin helped her to the front door, waiting until she managed to unlock it and stumble inside. He noted the time on his phone, 12:23 a.m., and drove home through the quiet streets. At his modest apartment, Kevin checked on Maya, who was sleeping peacefully in her small bedroom. He kissed her forehead gently, then sat at his kitchen table, uploading the dashcam footage and voice recordings to his cloud storage. Something in Linda's behavior had made him uneasy, and his instincts told him to be prepared for anything. Monday morning arrived with its usual chaos of ringing phones and clicking keyboards. Kevin was reviewing quarterly reports when Linda's voice cut through the morning bustle like a knife. "Attention, everyone," Linda announced, her voice carrying across the open office space. Conversation stopped, heads turned. "I need to address something that happened Friday night." Kevin's blood ran cold as Linda's eyes locked onto his. "Kevin Porter took advantage of me when I was vulnerable," she continued, her voice trembling with what sounded like righteous anger. "He drove me home and, well, you all know what men like him do when they think nobody's watching." The office fell into stunned silence. Kevin's co-workers, people he'd worked alongside for years, stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. Sarah from accounting physically stepped away from him. Mike from IT shook his head in disappointment. Kevin stood slowly, his hands shaking not with fear, but with controlled rage. 7 years of building his reputation, of being the reliable colleague who never missed a deadline, who remembered birthdays and contributed to every office collection, all of it crumbling in the space of 30 seconds. Linda, Kevin said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. That's not what happened, and you know it. Don't you dare question me, Linda shot back. I'm calling HR immediately. Security should escort you out. Kevin reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, his movements deliberate and calm. The office watched in tense silence as he opened his video app. Before you call anyone, Kevin said, his voice carrying across the room, I think everyone should see exactly what happened Friday night. He pressed play on the dashcam footage. Linda's drunken rambling filled the quiet office, her slurred words about loneliness and divorce clearly audible. The video showed Kevin's hands on the steering wheel, his responses professional and appropriate. You're such a good listener, Kevin. Linda's recorded voice played. You know, I've always noticed you. Always so strong. Let's just get you home safe, Linda. You'll feel better tomorrow, Kevin's voice responded from the speakers. The office erupted in whispers. Kevin played the voice memo next, his time-stamped documentation of the evening's events. Then came the final piece, the recording of him helping Linda to her door and immediately leaving. Linda's face had gone pale, then red with embarrassment and anger. But the damage was done. Kevin's co-workers looked at him with new understanding, while Linda stood exposed as a liar. You recorded me without permission, Linda sputtered. This is illegal. Actually, Kevin replied calmly, recording someone in a vehicle with their knowledge isn't illegal in this state, and you were aware I was documenting our interaction for both of our protection. Within hours, the story had spread throughout the building. HR launched an immediate investigation, and during their interviews, a different picture of Kevin Porter began to emerge. Sarah from accounting mentioned how Kevin always declined after work drinks because he had to pick up his daughter. Mike from IT remembered Kevin working through lunch breaks to save money, bringing peanut butter sandwiches while others ordered takeout. He's been raising that little girl on his own for 3 years, whispered Janet from reception. Ever since his wife died. I've seen him at the grocery store, carefully counting coupons, making sure he could afford the name brand cereal his daughter likes. The revelation hit the office like a wave. Kevin Porter, the man they'd almost condemned based on one woman's lie, was barely scraping by while raising his daughter alone. He worked double shifts when overtime was available, never complained, and had never once asked for special treatment. Senior Vice President Robert Chen, who had heard about the incident, called for an emergency meeting that afternoon. As the investigation continued, the truth about Kevin's character emerged. Employee reviews showed he'd never had a single complaint. He'd trained half the junior analysts, and he'd quietly covered shifts for colleagues during family emergencies. By Wednesday, the investigation was complete. Linda Matthews was called into Robert Chen's office, where she was terminated immediately for filing false allegations and creating a hostile work environment. That afternoon, Chen called an all-hands meeting. The entire office gathered in the main conference room, the same space where the company party had been held just 5 days earlier. I want to address what happened this week, Chen began, his voice firm. Kevin Porter's character was attacked based on lies, but what I've learned about Kevin through this process has shown me that we've been undervaluing one of our finest employees. Kevin stood near the back, uncomfortable with the attention, but holding his head high. Kevin, Chen continued, you protected not just yourself, but this company's integrity. You've shown professionalism, preparedness, and grace under pressure. You're being promoted to senior project lead, effective immediately, with a salary increase of 25%. The room erupted in applause. Kevin's eyes filled with tears. He refused to let fall. All he could think about was Maya, waiting at after-school care, and how he'd finally be able to afford that bike she'd been wanting for her birthday. After the meeting, Kevin's phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Garcia. Mija is asking when you'll be home. I told her Daddy is having a very good day at work. Kevin smiled, pocketed his phone, and headed out to pick up his daughter. Kevin didn't ask to be a hero. He just refused to be a victim. He knew the truth wouldn't hide forever, not when he had a daughter counting on him to stand tall no matter what they threw at him. And in the end, one hidden recording didn't just save his job. It exposed what happens when the lie is louder than the truth, until the truth finally speaks up. If this story moved you, let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to Hopeful Horizon for more stories that prove good people win when they stay ready. Until next time, stay honest, stay strong, and never forget, receipts save lives. This is Hopeful Horizon, signing off.